So with just over 4 weeks to go now until my marathon, how did the shoe rotation that I talked about 8 weeks ago stack up? So welcome back to another video, and time to give you guys the final marathon training shoe rotation update. I mentioned in the previous video last week that actually one of the most crucial things in a marathon training block I find is to have a solid shoe rotation. If you find shoes that work, don't switch them out. Getting through a marathon training block and banking all the training is more than half the battle. So how have the shoes that I've been using held up? Have I got some shining stars? How many miles have I ended up putting in them? And have I got any that I've pushed to one side? And just a quick reminder what those running shoes were. I had a 3 shoe rotation in terms of the 3 core shoes, and then I had another couple of shoes that I was going to throw in there here and there. They were the Hoka Max 6, they were the Brooks Hyperion Max 2, and then finally the Adidas Adios Pro 3. Those are the 3 core shoes that I was going to be using a lot during this training block, so I'll give you an update on those shortly. And the ones I was going to throw in extra here and there were the Adidas SL2 and then the Saucony Kinvara 14. Plus, I also mentioned that I'd be getting the Noosa Tri-In from Asics to add to the rotation, which I can confirm has happened, as you've seen by the videos, and that has done really well as well. There is another shoe coming in, which we'll talk about now. And that shoe is the Brooks Hyperion 2. So that one is coming in hopefully at the end of this week, if not beginning of next week. I've ordered it via Up and Running in Cheltenham. I won some vouchers from the 10k in Cheltenham 10k the other week, so I've spent those on the Hyperion 2. Hopefully that's a good investment. Now in terms of going into the rotation, it'll get a couple of runs towards the end of the block, but the reality is it won't become a mainstay in there. I'm more so looking at that one as beyond the marathon training, but when I go back in to speed work, it should be a really great shoe to add to the rotation. And talking of additions to the running shoe rotation, this one has come into play as well, the Nike Next Percent version 2. This is going to be, or another model of this will be, my racing shoe for the Abingdon Marathon. So what I've done in the second half of this training block is add this shoe in there. I've been using it on the marathon specific workouts that I've been doing midweek. So realistically, sort of like 8 weeks out, 7 weeks out, I was really locking into some marathon specific work. And over the last 3 runs, I've slipped on this thing just to get a little bit of practice in it. Obviously, I've raced in it loads, I've run in it loads, I've run a marathon in it before, and I've run marathons in the version 1 as well. So I know what it's all about. But I'm just preparing the body, preparing the mind so that I know what it's like to get out there and train in this shoe at marathon pace, so I know, and it feels very comfortable on race day. So that's come in as a new addition into the rotation. And then there are 2 removals from the rotation as well. The first one has been the Adidas SL2. I did say that this one would be on the substitutes bench. It would be there for me just to mix up if I fancied it. But the honest truth is I just haven't, and I haven't used it. 46.5 miles still in this shoe. I think I might have used it once over the last few weeks. But that's been about it, because I've been getting on so well with the other shoes in the rotation. That's not to say this thing's down and out, because it won't be. It will get more use, and it will actually get more use very soon, because the Max 6 is, I think, coming to the end of its life over the next couple of months. So we'll slip this one back into the rotation, and this one can take over some of those easy miles. But I've just found the Max 6 to be far superior in terms of soaking up those easy miles, and I've been really enjoying that one. Also, another removal, I don't have it here with me, is a Kinvara 14. I did say in the beginning that that shoe would not get too much use in the second half of the block, and that's correct. I haven't used it one bit. That one will come back in when we get back into speed work after. I love those type of shoes for speed work when you're doing kind of raw speed and training for a fast 5 and 10k. Those shoes tend to shine in that area. But in terms of marathon training, at the moment, I'm building up the fatigue in the legs. I'm logging a lot of miles. I'm looking for something with a little bit more cushioning to support the legs a little bit more. So I tend to find that I avoid the Kinvara when it gets to these longer miles. And now on to the 3 shoes that I said were going to be a mainstay, and the next 2 I'm really excited to share the mileage, because the numbers are quite high and they obviously show no signs of stopping yet. But we'll start with this one, the Brooks Hyperion Max 2. So this was one that I anticipated coming into the rotation to take some of the moderate miles, steady miles, and some of the marathon pace work. The reality is I've used it for the moderate miles, the medium long run in particular. This shoe has been a weekly staple in the rotation for that, bar 1 week where I used the Noosa Tri. Otherwise, I have to say, this thing has kind of been pigeonholed there and there only. I haven't wanted to use it for anything else. I do find it a little bit big and clunky. I haven't used it for the marathon pace miles. I just don't find it particularly that fast. And that's, I suppose, maybe just because of the other shoes I have in the rotation that I'm just finding to be really, really good. So I have been using this one, but only for that one run a week. Oh, and before we do the Pro 3 and the Max 6 and those exciting mileage updates, the Noosa Tri 16, I forgot about this one. So we got to throw this one in because this one has been absolutely stellar. 61 miles, so not the biggest amount of miles, but where this thing has dropped in, it has been fantastic. And I can confirm this will get a lot more miles over the coming months, honestly, and it will get more miles at the end of this training block as well. I'm actually probably swaying towards this one more so now over the Brooks Hyperion Max 2 for the medium long runs, just because I've got that one now to 100 miles, and I actually prefer, I dropped this one in last week or the week before for the medium long run, and it was absolutely super. I loved it. Not only that, but last week I took it out on the speed workout. So in my marathon training at the moment last week, I did a marathon specific workout, which was in the next percents, and then I did a shorter, faster workout, hit some really good paces in this thing. I use this shoe and it is absolutely fantastic. Now, you guys have mentioned the Noosa Tri for years, and to be fair, the Super Blast more recently, but the Nova Blast, the Glide Ride series, Evo Ride, all of those, and the Nimbus and all of those shoes, they get so much more coverage than this one. This one just kind of sweeps in under the radar and just kind of does a job, and it does it really well, and it doesn't get the hype it deserves. Honestly, you guys have been badgering me to test it for ages. I'm grateful that I finally have, and I'm now on your team. I agree, this one does not get the credit it deserves. It is absolutely fantastic, and it can just do it all. The reason I love it, it's lightweight, great for easy miles, steady miles, and workouts as well. And finally, let's update you on these two. Let's start with the Max 6 first. Wow. So we have just gone over 300 miles in the shoe, 306, 305, I can't remember, which I said when I got this shoe, I said if I can get over 300 miles like I did in the Mach 4, I will be absolutely buzzing. Because you have to remember, I know Hoka and their durability isn't fantastic, but the Mach 4 was the only shoe that I ever got over 300 miles in. And I said that I want to take this shoe to failure to see where it starts to flatten out. And I have to be honest with you, over the last sort of like 2, 3, 4 runs, I have noticed it getting a little bit flatter, not quite as bouncy as it was, but it's certainly not flat. It's certainly not at that kind of rock hard, like with the Rincon, I used to love that shoe, but overnight it just used to go as, the midsole used to go as solid as a rock, and it was like running, and it would like shake your fillings out of your teeth. It was just crazy the way it would just literally give up the ghost. This one is not there yet. It does feel, as I said, like it's flattening out, but it's not there yet. And honestly, I've used this for predominantly easy runs. I've done a long run in it more recently and been able to pick up the pace down to marathon pace. I've done a workout in it over this marathon training block, only the one, but I have, and again, it is more than capable of handling that. I do find it to have enough cushioning for those easy miles without jumping in to the max cushion realm. I'm not a huge fan of max cushion shoes. I just find them to be excessive, and I don't like the heavier shoes. This is super lightweight in my size. It comes in under 300 grams, which is very, very impressive. And yeah, it's just done really well. It's holding up well, and as someone who is 6'6" and in and around 86 to 88 kilos now, I've lost a couple of kilos during marathon training, but I'm still quite heavy and my cadence is quite low, so I put a lot of force through each step. To get to 300 miles has been a real, you know, a real privilege in a way, and quite lucky, and it's held up really well. So for those of you lighter runners out there, smaller frame, I think you'll get even more than that. I have an anticipation that it will start to give up in and around now between 300 and 400 miles. We'll see how many we can get, but yeah, it's just this training block, it's been incredible. And the other star of the show, the Adidas Adios Pro 3, 398 miles in this thing, pretty much 400 miles, and what a superstar this has been throughout my training block. I've always been looking for that type of shoe that I can get sort of super shoe benefits from, enjoy the lovely foam that's produced in those shoes, but without running in the rigidity of a carbon plate and effectively taking away some of our natural biomechanics, because that's what carbon plates do. Our foots are meant to move in a certain way. If you're running plated shoes too much, it can often cause us injuries. I've often been a sucker for a good calf injury if I've used, or calves, or just a bit of tightness. I often get that if I use carbon plates too much, which is why I try and limit myself to plated shoes. But with the rods in this shoe, it is a much more natural sensation. I've had no issues whatsoever running in it. And bar a few little holes, small little holes starting to appear in the outsole of the shoe, it is doing really well. Nearly 400 miles. So how have I used this one? I've used it everywhere and anywhere. It's been brilliant. Long runs every single weekend, pretty much. This thing has done it. Long run workouts, so not just the easier long runs, but the long run workouts as well, where I've been putting the marathon pace miles in, and some of the interval work. I've been doing some of the, also before I dropped in with the next percent, I've been doing some of the marathon sessions in this one as well. That is now no more because I'm using the next percent to get a bit more specific for the race. So at the moment now, it's pretty much just doing those long run workouts, but every single week it's taking a beating, 18, 20, 22, 23 miles. It's handling it and it's doing it really, really well. Honestly, without this thing, I don't think I could have put the block together that I have so far. So there we go, shining stars of the training block. And if I'd have had a chance to have got this earlier, or if I had got it earlier, I think this one would have had far more miles than it did. And I don't think the Brooks Hyperion Max 2 would have got to the mileage it would have got to if I'd have got this one in sooner. So this one, as I said, is going to be getting more miles. But honestly, these two have been absolutely exceptional. And I can't hammer home how important it is to get shoes that really, really work for you, the way you run, and just give you an enjoyment factor. Obviously, all I thought about and have in my previous training blocks is I need a shoe that can do a good long run workout, and the Brooks Hyperion Max has always been that one for me, hence why I bought a second pair. And in the past I've had the Brooks Hyperion Tempo, and again bought a second pair. So I've always made sure I've had that staple shoe in a training block that I know I can rely upon, and when I'm going to do those harder miles, and when I say harder, I don't necessarily mean fast, but I might mean longer miles, long run workouts, the things that beat up the legs a little bit more, I always want something reliable that I can trust. And I have to say, this thing has been absolutely fantastic. I know that this will go and appear on discount. I know it has recently, and I will aim to get some probably in and around Christmas time again. I'm just trying to save my money at the moment for some of the new releases coming up in October, November and December. But honestly, I will love to grab another pair of these. They've dropped down to nearly £100 recently. They're well worth it just for a training pair. If you're not a fan of racing in them, they definitely save your legs. They've been the saving grace this training block, and I'm so grateful. So there we go. That'll be the final update on the marathon training shoe rotation. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What is your shoe that you go to every single training block, or has been the best one for you this training block? Do let me know in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you down there. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you on the next one.